Look out, it's your boy Ashley Knuckles doing a post-fight video to the Oscar Valdez versus Emmanuel Navarrete fight. What was billed as a war between two Mexican fighters and lead up to what could possibly be a trilogy, ended up being a Mexican massacre. Even though Joe Tessitore and Tim Bradley kept putting the gas on every time Valdez finally landed a shot on Navarrete. But for the most part, Navarrete absolutely dominated Oscar Valdez from the time the first bell rang. He opened up a can of whoop ass and doused it on Valdez from ding to dong. He had a very variety attack. He would throw his jabs, he would throw his straights, he would throw uppercuts. He threw sneaky body shots, counter to the body. He's such an awkward fighter, but rugged. He's not in any stretch a dumb fighter. He's very aware of what's going on in the ring. And, you know, he said before the fight he was looking for a war between two Mexican warriors. I guess you can call it a war because, you know, Valdez, tried and true a game fighter, a warrior, a good puncher. He has no quit in him. He was always in the fight, looking to make it a competitive fight, but to no avail, because even after round one, Valdez's face began to show the effects of those bombs that he was taking from Navarrete. At the end of the fight, Navarrete looked like he wasn't even in a fight. Valdez looked frustrated and confused. He never really mounted a solid attack behind the jab. He telegraphed his left hook over and over and over, whether he was leading with the left hook, trying to counter with the left hook. It was really pathetic, man. It got to the point where Navarrete was just leaving his right hand on the side of his face because he knew the left hook was coming. And a few left hooks that Valdez was able to get in through the course of the fight had no effect. He never hurt Navarrete. Navarrete hurt Valdez several times in the fight, but Valdez was in very good shape. He was able to endure, and you know, he was able to recoup and keep fighting. He was never on Bambi legs. He was never on Queer Street. Like a game and solid veteran, he would just bag away from him and collect himself and then try to get back into the fight. Whether he would lead in with hooks or try to counter with hooks, he always kept trying to win, but to no avail. Navarrete was not going to be denied. He was the bigger guy. He had the longer range. He had the high motor. I mean, the guy was throwing upwards to 100 punches around. And I've said this for many years, that it don't matter what the level of your skill is. When you got a guy who throws almost 100 punches around, you got problems. But this particular guy is not just some rude, crude dude. There's a method to the madness. He just doesn't look like a sophisticated up and down 1, 2, 3 fundamental fighter. That he is not. He is awkward, but he's in full control of what he was doing. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and he has a keen sense of awareness. He knows where his opponent is at all time. It looked like at times he's falling over himself, but he knows his style, and he got his style down perfected. And when you fight a guy like Navarrete, he keeps showing you on the videotape that he's not some dude that you got to take lightly. And anybody who gets in the ring with him, you're going to have to be a real sharp shooter or crisp fighter, a crisp puncher. And your time is going to have to be on point, because you basically can bring in nobody into the ring who can duplicate what he will bring on fight night. There's nobody you can spar with that can duplicate that awkwardness. The scores are being read. Looks like it's a shutout. And still champion, Emmanuel Navarrete. A virtual shutout, man. This was not a war. This was a massacre. And while Top Rank and the guys who were commentating are trying to build this as the first fight and a potential trilogy, I saw absolutely nothing in this fight that would lead me to believe that even a rematch is warranted. The beating that Valdez took is only going to be worse. Naverette hurt his hand around round 5, round 6, and had to continue on fighting with a hurt right hand. So the beating probably would have been at least 2 times worse if he didn't have an injury through the course of the fight. But it didn't deter him. It didn't stop him from getting what he wanted to get accomplished. He left the fight virtually unscathed without a mark on his face. This was a dominant display of 2 different level of fighters, or just a guy who just had a hard time with a very awkward style. But for the most part, it was a good fight. 2 Mexican warriors. But Navarrete is, you know how it is. Once that motor gets going, you're going to have a hard time trying to shut it down. And this night was no different. Shout out to the champion, another notch under his belt, another name under his belt, and we'll just see what happens as we move forward from here. And that's all I got for you. Wrapping up this post fight, it's your boy Ashy Knuckles, and I will holler.